Have you ever noticed how the moment you try to hold on to something beautiful, it begins to slip away? Not because you weren't careful enough, not because you did something wrong, but because holding was never really possible in the first place. Maybe it was the light coming through a window at exactly the right angle, or the way someone laughed that made everything feel lighter for just a second. You wanted to keep it, to freeze it there. But even as you reach for it, it was already becoming something else. This is not a problem to solve. This is the nature of things. There is a word in early Buddhism for this: anicca, impermanence. It doesn't mean that things are fragile or broken. It means that everything that arises also passes. Everything. The breath you just took, the sound of these words, the thought forming in your mind right now as you listen. Think of a river for a moment. Not the idea of a river, but an actual river you have seen or stood beside. If you return to that river tomorrow, it would still be there. You would recognize it. You might even call it by the same name. But the water moving past you would not be the same water, not a single drop. The river is not a thing. It is a process, a continuous flowing that never repeats itself. And yet we speak of it as if it stays. You can rest your attention on your breath now, if you like, just noticing it, not controlling it, feeling the cool air as it enters, the warmth as it leaves. Each breath is different, each one unrepeatable. You have never taken this exact breath before. You will never take it again. This is not meant to make you anxious. It is meant to help you see. We spend so much time trying to make things permanent, trying to capture moments, trying to keep people exactly as they are, trying to hold our own feelings in place so we can examine them or fix them or make them last. But feelings are like weather. They move through. Happiness comes and goes. Sadness comes and goes. Even the feeling of being stuck is not actually stuck. It changes texture and intensity moment by moment if you pay close enough attention. The river keeps moving. It has no choice. It cannot hold itself still. You might notice a sound in the room with you right now. Maybe the hum of something electronic, maybe the wind, maybe silence that is not quite silent when you really listen. That sound is not solid. It is vibration, movement, waves of pressure in the air that your ear translates into something you call sound. And by the time you have named it, it has already changed. This is what the Buddha pointed to when he taught about impermanence. He was not being pessimistic. He was being precise. He was saying, look closely at your actual experience, not your ideas about experience, not your hopes or fears about what experience should be, but the thing itself, the raw fact of this moment. And what you find when you look closely is that nothing stands still, not the things you love, not the things you fear, not even you. The body you are sitting in right now is not the same body you had 7 years ago. Most of your cells have been replaced. The thoughts you are thinking are not the thoughts you were thinking 10 seconds ago. Even your sense of being a continuous self, a solid someone who persists through time, is actually a river, a process, a flowing that you have learned to call by one name. This might sound like loss. It might sound like everything is always ending. And in a way, it is. But endings are also beginnings. The river does not mourn the water that has passed. It simply continues, each moment complete in itself, each moment giving way to the next without resistance. You can feel this in your own body if you bring your attention there. The rise and fall of your chest, the subtle shifts in temperature on your skin, the tiny adjustments your muscles make without you deciding anything. Your body knows how to let go. It does it constantly. It releases each breath to make room for the next one. It does not cling to the air it has already used. What if you could meet your life the way your body meets the breath, not holding, not pushing away, just allowing each moment to arrive and depart in its own time? The beauty is not in making things stay. The beauty is in seeing them clearly while they are here, in recognizing that this moment, exactly as it is, will never come again. Not because something is wrong, but because the river is moving, because everything is alive, because change is not the opposite of beauty. It is the condition that makes beauty possible. You expect the world to hold still, not consciously perhaps, but watch what happens when someone moves your chair, when the weather shifts, when a friend changes their mind, something tightens. You wanted it to stay where it was. The Buddha said that all conditioned things are impermanent. When you see this with wisdom, you turn away from suffering, not away from life, away from the demand that life stop moving. Think of a river flowing past your feet. The water touching your skin right now will never touch it again. It moves on. New water arrives. You might call it the same river, but it is not the same anything. It is only continuous becoming. You stand in that river every moment. The breath you just took is gone. The thought that seemed so solid a moment ago has dissolved. The light coming through the window is not the light that was there when you began reading this, and still you reach for permanence. You want the river to freeze. This is not wrong. It is just what minds do. They take a snapshot and call it reality. They say, this is how things are. And then the next moment comes and the snapshot is already outdated. But the mind insists. It tightens around the old image. Notice one thing that has changed since yesterday. Not as a grand philosophical exercise, just look. Maybe a leaf on the path outside has curled at the edge. Maybe the light falls differently across the floor. Maybe your own mood has shifted, even slightly, from what it was this time yesterday. When you notice this, you are not trying to accept impermanence. You are simply seeing it. The leaf did curl. The light did move. Your mood did shift. These are not problems. They are facts. The river does not apologize for flowing. It does not pause to let you catch up. It moves because that is what water does, and you, standing in it, are also moving. Your cells are replacing themselves. Your thoughts are arising and passing. The sensations in your body are flickering in and out of awareness. You are not a statue. You are a process. But the mind wants to be a statue. It wants to say, I am this kind of person. I feel this way about that. This is my life. And then something changes, and the mind feels betrayed. It tightens, it resists, it suffers. The teaching is not that you should celebrate every change. It is that change is not up for negotiation. You can clench against it, or you can see it. One of those hurts, the other does not. Look again at the thing that has changed since yesterday. The leaf, the light, the mood. What happens if you do not try to reverse it? What happens if you simply let it be different? You might notice that the tightness loosens. Not because you have accepted impermanence in some deep spiritual way, but because you have stopped pretending the river is not moving. This is the practice. Not once, not as a revelation, but again and again. You notice what has shifted. You let it be shifted. You do not make a project out of it. The river flows past your feet, and you do not ask it to stop. You feel the coolness. You notice the current. You see that it is always arriving and always leaving. And in that seeing, something softens. The Buddha did not teach impermanence to make you sad. He taught it to show you where the suffering actually lives. It lives in the gap between what is happening and what you wanted to keep happening. Close that gap, not by forcing the world to hold still, but by seeing that it never did. You have been standing in a moving river your whole life. You have been calling it solid ground. And every time it moved, you thought something had gone wrong. Nothing has gone wrong. The river is doing what rivers do. And you, standing in it, are also doing what living things do. You are changing. Breath by breath, moment by moment. When you see this, you do not turn away from life, you turn toward it. Because life is not the frozen image, life is the flow, and you are already in it. You've probably felt it. The moment you try to hold on to something too tightly, it starts to change shape in your hands. A good mood you want to keep becomes stiff and forced. A conversation you're trying to control goes quiet. Even a plan you've rehearsed 100 times begins to crack the moment you need it most. There's an old image from Zen that points to this. Imagine holding sand in your palm. When your hand stays open, the sand rests there. You can feel its weight, its texture, the way it shifts slightly with your breath. But the moment you close your fist around it, trying to keep it from moving, the grains start slipping through the gaps between your fingers. The tighter you squeeze, the less you have. Not because the sand is trying to escape, but because squeezing creates the very openings that let it go. This isn't a metaphor about giving up, it's an observation about how craving works. Craving isn't just wanting something, it's the tension that comes when we believe we must have it, must keep it, must make it stay exactly as it is right now. That belief tightens everything. The body, the breath, the mind. And in that tightness, we lose contact with what's actually here. You can test this in small ways. Think of a moment when you wanted someone to stay happy with you. Maybe you told a joke and they laughed, and you felt warm. Then you tried another joke, and another, reaching for that same warmth. But now you're watching their face too closely. You're performing. The ease is gone. What you're holding isn't the laughter anymore. It's the need for the laughter to mean something permanent about you. Or think of a plan you made. Maybe it was simple at first. You'd meet a friend, take a walk, see what happens, but then you started building on it. You imagined the conversation you'd have, the way they'd respond, the feeling you'd leave with. By the time you're actually walking together, you're not really there. You're comparing what's happening to what you expected. And when it doesn't match, there's a small ache. Not because the walk is bad, but because you're gripping an idea of how it should be, and the real moment keeps slipping past. This is what impermanence does. It doesn't ask permission. A feeling arises and it fades. A thought comes and it dissolves. The light changes. The temperature shifts. Your energy rises and falls. None of this is a problem until we try to freeze it. Until we clench our fist around the sand and tell it to stop moving. The beauty isn't in stopping the movement. The beauty is in noticing that the movement is already complete. Nothing is broken when things change. The sand doesn't fail you when it falls. It's just doing what sand does. And when you open your hand again, you can hold more. Not because you've mastered some technique, but because an open hand is where things can actually rest. Here's something you can try, not as a fix, but as a way of seeing. Hold something lightly today. It could be a plan. Maybe you've decided how your afternoon will go, and you can feel yourself gripping that decision. Notice the grip. Then let your hand open a little. Not abandoning the plan, but letting it be softer. See what happens when you stop defending it, or hold a conversation lightly. When you're talking with someone, notice if you're trying to steer it somewhere. Maybe you want them to understand you in a particular way, or you want to feel a certain closeness. Just notice that pull. Then let the conversation move where it moves. You can still speak, you can still care, but you're not squeezing. Or hold a hope lightly. Maybe there's something you want to happen tomorrow, next week, next year. Feel how you carry that hope. Is it resting in an open hand, or are you clenching around it, trying to make it solid? When you notice the clench, you don't have to let go of the hope itself, you just soften the grip. You let it be a hope, not a demand. This isn't about becoming passive, it's about learning the difference between holding and clinging. Holding is contact. Clinging is contraction. When you hold something lightly, you can actually feel it. You can respond to it. You can let it change without losing yourself. The sand can rest in your palm. And when it shifts, when it falls, you're not left empty, you're left open. You sit down and the breath is already there. You didn't call it. It arrived without asking, filled the body, and left before you could hold it. This happens again and again. The breath enters and leaves without waiting for permission. And somewhere in that simple movement is everything the Buddha taught about impermanence. We forget that every breath is both arrival and departure. We treat the in-breath as if it will stay, as if the fullness in the chest is a place we can live. But it's already turning, already becoming the out-breath, already dissolving into the air around you. You can feel this if you pay attention. The peak of the inhale is not a plateau. It's a hinge. The breath doesn't pause to ask what comes next. It knows. This is the nature of all things. The teaching is not abstract. It lives in your body right now. The in-breath arises and passes. The out-breath arises and passes. You don't have to believe this or understand it philosophically. You only have to notice it. The breath is showing you what impermanence means, not as an idea, but as a felt experience, immediate and undeniable. We spend so much time trying to make things stay. We hold our relationships as if love were a solid object. We cling to comfort as if ease were a permanent state. We grasp at good feelings, good days, good years, hoping they'll root themselves and refuse to leave. But the breath keeps teaching the same lesson. It comes in, it goes out, it doesn't apologize, it doesn't explain, it simply moves. When you sit quietly and bring your attention to the breath, you're not doing something special. You're meeting what's already happening. The breath has been rising and falling since you were born. It will continue until it doesn't. Right now, it's here. You can feel it at the nostrils, cool as it enters, warm as it leaves. You can feel it in the chest, the belly, the subtle expansion and release. This is not preparation for practice. This is the practice. Notice one full breath. Feel the beginning of the in-breath, the way it fills the space inside you, the way it reaches a natural end. Don't control it. Don't deepen it or smooth it out. Let it be exactly as it is. Then feel the out-breath, the way the body releases without effort, the way the air returns to the room. The whole cycle takes a few seconds. In that short span, something arrived and something left. You didn't lose anything. You didn't gain anything. The breath came and went, and you're still here, witnessing. Now notice a second breath. This one is different from the first, even if only slightly. Maybe it's deeper, maybe it's shallower. Maybe it catches a little in the throat. The breath never repeats itself exactly. Each one is its own event, its own small life. It arises from conditions, the state of your body, the air in the room, the rhythm of your nervous system. It passes because those conditions change. There's no breath that stays. There's no breath that refuses to end. The breath enters and leaves the body without asking permission, and this is not a problem to solve. It's the way things are. You can feel it in the third breath now. Let it come in fully. Let it go out completely. Don't rush to the next one. Let there be space between breaths, that quiet gap where nothing is happening and everything is still okay. The gap is part of the rhythm. The emptiness is part of the fullness. This is what the Buddha meant when he pointed to impermanence. Not as a philosophical position, but as something you can touch with your attention. The breath is the most intimate teacher. It shows you that everything you experience has the same nature, arising, briefly present, passing away. Sounds come and go. Sensations appear and fade. Thoughts emerge and dissolve. Even the sense of being a solid, continuous self is made of moments that don't stay. And here's what's beautiful: because nothing stays, everything can arrive. If the in-breath didn't leave, there would be no room for the next breath. If this moment didn't pass, the next moment couldn't come. Impermanence is not loss. It's the condition for renewal, for change, for the possibility that something different can happen. The breath teaches you this without words. It shows you that letting go is not tragedy. It's how life continues. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to become someone who accepts impermanence. You only have to feel the breath as it actually is, arriving, passing, arriving again. The rhythm is already there. It's been there all along. You're just noticing it now, and in that noticing, something shifts. The clinging loosens. The fear softens. You see that the breath has never needed your permission, and it's been fine all this time. We spend so much of our lives trying to hold things in place. We want the good feeling to last. We want the people we love to stay exactly as they are. We want our bodies to remain strong, our minds sharp, our circumstances stable. And when something begins to shift, we tighten, we brace. We tell ourselves that if we can just keep everything steady, we'll finally be safe. But look up at the sky right now, or remember the last time you did. The clouds are always moving. They form out of nothing you can see. They thicken and stretch. They dissolve back into the blue. And they never ask permission. They never apologize for changing. A cloud that held the shape of a mountain a moment ago is now a wisp, now a veil, now gone. And the sky doesn't mourn it. The sky remains open. This is what the old teaching points to when it says form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Nothing has a fixed nature. Not the cloud, not the mountain, not the feeling in your chest right now. Everything that appears is already in motion. Everything that seems solid is made of conditions that are themselves shifting. The cloud looks dense and white, but it's only water vapor held briefly in a particular arrangement. When the temperature changes, when the wind shifts, the cloud releases. It doesn't break, it transforms. We think permanence means safety. We believe that if we can freeze this moment, this person, this version of ourselves, we'll finally rest. But that belief is what creates the suffering, because nothing can be frozen. The harder we grip, the more we feel the slipping. The more we insist that things stay, the more we notice every small change as a threat. The cloud doesn't cling to being a cloud. It doesn't resist becoming mist or rain. It moves because that's what it is, a gathering of conditions, a temporary form. And because it doesn't cling, it's free. It drifts, it rises, it dissolves without tragedy. You can see this for yourself. You don't need to believe it first. Sit somewhere you can watch the sky for 5 minutes, not to meditate in any formal way, just to see. Notice a cloud. Watch its edges. See how they blur and shift even as you look. See how one part thickens while another fades. See how the whole shape changes without effort, without violence. The cloud isn't trying to become something else. It's simply responding to what's happening. Wind, warmth, the pull of the air. And as you watch, notice what happens in you. Maybe there's a softening. Maybe there's a small release in the chest. Because when you see that the cloud is free precisely because it dissolves, something in you recognizes the same possibility. You've been carrying the belief that letting go means losing. But the cloud shows you something different. Dissolving is not loss, it's transformation. The water doesn't disappear, it changes form. It falls as rain, it seeps into the ground, it rises again. This is true for everything you experience. The thought that feels so solid right now will dissolve. The sensation in your body will shift. The mood that seems permanent will lighten or darken and then change again. And you are not diminished by this. You are not losing yourself when the feeling fades. You are moving the way the cloud moves. You are responding to conditions the way everything responds. When you watch the sky, you're not looking for a lesson. You're not trying to fix yourself. You're simply seeing what's already happening. The clouds form, the clouds dissolve, and the sky remains open, unchanged by what passes through it. You are like the sky. The thoughts and feelings and sensations are like the clouds. They come, they shift, they go, and you remain. This is why impermanence is beautiful. Not because it's poetic or comforting in an abstract way, but because it's true, and because seeing it directly loosens the grip. You stop needing things to stay. You stop fighting the movement. You see that dissolving is not the end of anything, it's the way everything continues. The cloud becomes rain, the rain becomes the river becomes the sea becomes vapor. The vapor becomes the cloud again. Nothing is lost, everything transforms. And you, watching the sky, begin to see that you are part of this same movement. You are not separate from the changing. You are the changing itself. And that is not a problem to solve. It's the nature of being alive. You have probably tried to hold on to a sunset as it faded. Not with your hands, but with your eyes. You stare harder, as if focus could slow the light. You take a photo, knowing already it will not carry what you feel now. The sky shifts from gold to rose to violet, and something in you tightens. You want it to stay. It will not stay. This is where suffering begins, not in the fading itself, but in the resistance to it. The Buddha taught that clinging to what is impermanent is the root of sorrow. He did not mean that change itself causes pain. He meant that our refusal to let things be what they are, temporary, moving, already gone, creates a friction inside us. We meet the world with a quiet demand, stay, and the world answers by continuing to move. You can feel this in small moments. A good conversation that starts to wind down. You want one more story, one more laugh. The other person is already turning toward the door, or a weekend morning when you have nowhere to be. You lie in bed, warm and still, and then you notice you are thinking about how soon it will end. The moment is here. You are elsewhere, trying to freeze it. Aversion works the same way, but in reverse. Instead of grasping at what you want to keep, you push against what you want to leave. A headache that will not lift, a mood that hangs like weather. You want it gone, and the wanting itself becomes another layer of discomfort. You are not just feeling the ache, you are fighting the fact that it is here at all. Both are forms of clinging. One pulls, one pushes. Both assume that things should be other than they are. There is a way to work with this, but it does not start with trying to accept impermanence as a concept. It starts with noticing the moment when you reach for permanence, just once today. One moment when you wanted something to last longer. It could be anything. The warmth of your coffee, the ease in your chest after a walk, the way someone looked at you. Notice the wanting itself, not what you wanted, the wanting. It feels like a small tightening, a lean forward in the mind. You are no longer in the experience. You are trying to secure it, to make it solid, to guarantee its return. This is the movement the Buddha pointed to. This is where sorrow takes root. When you name that wanting, you are not judging it. You are not trying to let go. You are simply seeing it as it is, a movement of mind that believes something should stay. And in the seeing, something loosens. Not because you have done anything, but because awareness itself does not cling. Think again of the sunset. If you watch it without trying to hold it, the fading becomes part of the beauty. The colors deepen because they are leaving. The light matters because it will not return in exactly this way. You are not detached, you are present. You are seeing what is actually here, which includes the fact that it is going. This is not resignation. It is not a cold acceptance that everything ends, so nothing matters. It is the opposite. When you stop trying to make things stay, you meet them fully. You are not divided between what is and what you wish were. You are here in this as it moves. The practice is very simple. Today, just once, catch yourself wanting something to last. It might be comfort. It might be clarity. It might be the feeling that you are doing well, that things are okay. Notice the moment you try to hold on to it. You do not need to change anything. You do not need to stop wanting. Just name it quietly, wanting this to stay. That is enough. In that naming, you are no longer inside the clinging. You are aware of it, and awareness does not grasp. It watches. It allows. You will forget. You will want things to last, and you will not notice until later. That is fine. This is not about perfection. It is about seeing once the movement of your own mind as it reaches for what is already changing. That one moment of recognition is the beginning. Not the beginning of letting go, but the beginning of seeing clearly what you have been doing all along. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The next time the wanting arises, there will be a small gap, a pause, a sense that you have been here before. That pause is where freedom lives. Not in the absence of wanting, but in the recognition of it. You are watching the sunset. You are not trying to hold it. You are here as it fades, and that is enough. There is a moment in late October when the oak tree outside your window releases 100 leaves at once. Not because something has gone wrong, not because it has been forced. The tree does not brace itself or negotiate. It simply lets them fall. This happens every year. The leaves turn copper and gold, they loosen at the stem, and when the conditions are right, they go. The tree does not ask whether it is ready. It does not wonder if this is the right time or if it should hold on a little longer. The season has shifted, and the tree responds. This is not loss, this is participation. We see this and call it beautiful. We drive hours to watch entire hillsides let go. We take photographs. We bring our children to walk through the leaves on the ground. But when our own lives begin to shift, when something we have held begins to loosen, we do not call it beautiful. We call it a problem. We call it too soon, or unfair, or not what we planned. Nature does not resist its own cycles. The tree does not argue with autumn. The river does not try to hold its water in one place. The moth does not refuse the end of its brief flight. They move through their seasons without the layer of resistance we bring to ours. And this is where we suffer, not in the change itself, but in the refusal of it. Spring comes, and the grass grows by itself. This is an old Zen line, and it points to something we forget constantly. The grass does not will itself into being. It does not set intentions or make plans. The conditions arise, and it grows. When the season turns, it browns and falls back. This is not failure. This is the way things move. You can feel this in your own body if you pay attention. Your breath does not wait for permission. It rises and falls. Your cells replace themselves without asking. Your hair grows and falls out. Your skin heals. You do not manage any of this. It happens because the conditions are present. And yet when something larger begins to change, a relationship, a role, a way of seeing yourself, you step in and try to stop it. You think you should be able to. The suffering is not in the ending. It is in the story that the ending should not be happening. That if you were wiser, stronger, more careful, you could have kept it. But the tree does not think this way. When the days shorten and the light changes, the tree begins to pull nutrients back from the leaves. It is already preparing for what comes next. The leaves do not fall because the tree has failed. They fall because the tree is responding to what is true. You might notice this in your own life right now. Something that once fit does not fit anymore. A habit, a belief, a way of spending your time. It is not that you have decided to let it go. It is that it is already loosening. The conditions have shifted. And you are standing there, holding on, asking it to stay. This is where the practice can begin. Not by letting go, because that phrase makes it sound like effort, but by naming what is already in a season of release. Just one thing, not everything, not the hardest thing, just something small that you can feel beginning to fall away. A routine that no longer serves. A way of speaking to yourself that has grown tired. A worry you have carried that no longer fits the shape of your life. You do not have to do anything with it. You do not have to make a plan or set a boundary or have a conversation. You just name it. You say quietly to yourself, "This is in autumn. This is loosening." And then you let your attention rest there for a moment, the way you might rest your eyes on a tree full of yellow leaves just before the wind picks up. The naming itself is enough. It lets you see the season you are in. And when you see it clearly, without the story that it should be different, something softens. Not because you will become detached or stop caring, but because you have stopped arguing with what is already happening. The tree does not mourn its leaves. It lets them go and stands bare through winter, and in spring it will grow new ones. Different leaves, a different shape. This is not a metaphor for optimism. It is just what happens. The cycles continue. What falls returns in another form. What ends makes space. You are part of this. Your life moves in seasons too. And right now, something is falling. You can feel it if you are honest. It does not mean you have failed. It means the conditions have changed. And the most natural thing, the thing that requires no effort at all, is to let the season be what it is. You wake each morning and recognize the face in the mirror, the same eyes, the same shape of the jaw. You reach for your coffee, and the hand that lifts the cup feels like yours, familiar, continuous. But if you look closer, something else is happening, something you cannot see but can begin to sense. Right now, in this moment, cells inside your body are dying, not dramatically, not painfully, just quietly completing their cycle. At the same time, new cells are forming. Skin cells slough away while others push up from beneath. Blood cells break down in your spleen while your bone marrow generates fresh ones. The lining of your stomach replaces itself every few days. Even your bones, which seem so solid, are constantly remodeling, breaking down and rebuilding in a rhythm you never notice. This is not a metaphor, this is what is actually happening. The body you think of as yours, as you, is more like a river than a stone. It looks continuous from a distance, but up close it is all movement, all change. And yet we speak as if we own it, as if it belongs to us, as if it is fixed. The Buddha taught that this body is not yours, not you. It arises and passes according to conditions. Food, water, air, temperature, rest. It depends on everything around it and inside it. It has no separate existence, no core that stays the same. When you look for what is permanent in the body, you find only process, only flow. This is not meant to frighten you, it is meant to wake you up. Because if the body is not fixed, then what you are clinging to is not what you think it is. You are holding on to an idea, a story, a snapshot that was already outdated the moment you took it. The body you inhabited 5 years ago is not this one. Most of the cells have turned over. The proteins have been replaced. Even the neurons in your brain, though longer lived, have changed their connections, their chemistry, their shape. You can begin to feel this, not as an intellectual idea, but as something real. Place your hand on your chest right now. Let it rest there, just above your heart. Feel the rise and fall of your breath beneath your palm. And then, beneath that, notice your heartbeat. It taps against your ribs in a rhythm that seems steady. But if you stay with it, you will notice something. The rhythm is not the same twice. One beat arrives a fraction sooner. Another lingers. The intervals shift. Your heart responds to your breath, to your thoughts, to the position of your body. It is not a metronome. It is alive, adjusting, changing moment to moment. This is not a flaw. This is how the body works. It is responsive. It is conditional. And because it is conditional, it cannot be owned. You do not control your heartbeat any more than you control the weather. You can influence it, yes. You can breathe slowly and it may calm. You can run and it will quicken. But the beat itself arises on its own. It is not you. It is not yours. It is a process unfolding according to causes you did not choose. When you rest your hand on your chest and feel this, something shifts. The body stops being a possession and becomes a process, a living system that you are part of, not separate from. You are not the owner of this heart. You are the space in which it beats, the awareness that notices it. And that awareness does not cling. It does not need to, because it is not threatened by change. The cells are still dying. New ones are still being born. Your heart is still shifting its rhythm. But now you are not pretending otherwise. You are not trying to freeze the river. You are simply watching it flow. This is where the beauty enters. Not because impermanence is present, not because loss does not hurt, but because when you stop pretending the body is fixed, you stop fighting what is already happening. You stop bracing against the truth. And in that release, there is a kind of ease, a lightness. The body becomes less of a burden because you are no longer carrying the weight of an illusion. Your hand is still on your chest, your heart is still beating. And with each beat, you are different than you were before. Not worse, not better, just different, just changing, just here. We spend so much time trying to hold the moment still. We reach for what feels good and push away what doesn't. And in all that reaching and pushing, we miss the one thing that's always happening. Everything is already moving. Everything is already gone. There's a silence between two notes in a song. You might not notice it at first, but it's there. Without that silence, the notes would blur into noise. The silence is what lets the music breathe. It's what makes the second note possible. And if you listen closely, you realize the silence isn't empty. It's full of potential. It's the space where one thing ends and another begins. That's where impermanence lives. Not in the things themselves, but in the gap between them. We don't like gaps. We fill them immediately. One task ends and we're already halfway into the next. One thought fades and another rushes in to take its place. We scroll, we plan, we replay what just happened or rehearse what's coming. We treat the gap like dead air, something to cover up. But the gap is where change becomes visible. It's where we might actually see that nothing stays. In Zen, they say that in the gap between thoughts, the world is fresh. Not because something new has arrived, but because the old thing has truly left. For a moment, there's no story. No opinion, no weight. Just the raw fact of what's here, unfiltered by what was here a second ago. You can hear this in music. The silence between two notes isn't just the absence of sound. It's the shape of the sound that came before and the doorway to the sound that's coming. The silence holds both. And if you try to skip over it, if you rush from one note to the next without letting the space exist, the music loses its meaning. It becomes frantic, flat. Our lives are like that too. We move from moment to moment as if they're connected by a solid thread, as if the person who woke up this morning is the same person sitting here now. But if you pause, if you actually stop between two activities and notice the space before the next thing begins, you might feel something shift. The thread isn't solid. It's more like a series of frames, each one slightly different from the last. And the space between the frames is where the difference lives. This isn't about stopping forever. It's not about sitting still and refusing to move. It's about noticing what's already happening. You finish washing a dish. Before you reach for the next one, there's a moment. Your hand is still wet. The water is still dripping. The dish is no longer in your hand, but the next one hasn't arrived yet. That moment is real. It's not a mistake. It's not wasted time. It's the gap where the first dish has ended and the second hasn't begun. If you let yourself feel that gap, even for a breath, something loosens. The urgency fades. The sense that everything has to keep moving, that you have to keep moving, softens just a little. Because in the gap, nothing is being held, nothing is being carried forward. There's just the fact of this, and then the fact of that, and a silence in between. Impermanence isn't a problem to solve. It's not something we need to accept in order to feel better. It's just what's true. Everything that arises passes. Every thought, every feeling, every moment of contact with the world. And the beauty isn't in holding on tighter or letting go more gracefully. The beauty is in the space itself. The silence between the notes. The gap where nothing is required of you, where nothing needs to be different, where the world is allowed to be fresh simply because the last moment has ended. You don't have to believe this. You can just try it. Pause between two activities today. Not as a technique, not as a way to become calmer or more present. Just pause. Notice the space before the next thing begins. Feel the air. Notice the shift in your body. Let the previous moment be over. Don't fill the gap with planning or commentary. Just let it be a gap. And if you do this once, you might notice that the gap was always there. You've just been moving too fast to see it. The world has been changing all along, breath by breath, moment by moment. And in the space between one breath and the next, everything you thought was solid has already become something else. The cherry blossom opens completely in spring. It does not hold back part of itself for next week. It does not bloom halfway because it knows the wind is coming. For 3 days, maybe 5, it gives everything. Then the petals fall. This is not tragedy. This is how the flower lives. We watch things pass, and we call it loss. The friend who moves away, the job that ends, the body that ages, the conversation that will not come again. We stand in the current of time, and we want to build a dam. We want to keep what we love exactly as it is. But the river does not stop, and the blossom does not refuse to fall. There is a teaching that says the flower blooms with its whole heart because it knows it will fade, not in spite of the fading, because of it. If the blossom lasted forever, it would not need to open fully today. It could wait. It could save something for later. But there is no later. There is only this morning, this light, this single chance to be what it is. We do not live like this. We drink our tea while thinking about the next thing. We walk without feeling our feet. We listen to someone we love and we are already planning our reply. We treat the moment as if it is guaranteed to return, as if we will get another chance to be here, exactly here, again. But we will not. This morning is not practice for tomorrow morning. This conversation is not a draft. The tea in your hand right now is the only tea you are actually drinking. Impermanence is not a punishment. It is not something that happens to us. It is the condition that makes presence possible. If this moment lasted forever, you would not need to notice it. You could drift. You could postpone attention indefinitely. But because this moment is already leaving, because it will not wait, it asks you to arrive. The cherry blossom does not have the luxury of distraction. Neither do you. When you see the flower fully open, something in you recognizes what it is doing. It is not trying to last. It is not negotiating with time. It is simply here, completely, in the only way it knows how. And then it falls. And in the falling, there is no failure. The tree does not grieve. The ground receives the petals without resistance. This is the way things are. This is the shape of life. We grieve because we want to hold on. We want the people we love to stay exactly as they are. We want our own bodies to stop changing. We want the feeling of this morning, this light, this ease, to be captured and kept. But when we try to hold water in our hands, it slips through. Not because we are doing it wrong, because water moves, because everything moves. Equanimity is not indifference, It is not coldness. It is the ability to see clearly that things arise and pass, and to meet that truth without collapsing. The flower does not collapse when it falls. It completes itself. You can do the same. You can meet the passing of things without turning away, without pretending it is not happening, without building a wall of bitterness or fear. You can let the moment be what it is. You can let it go when it goes. There is something you can do today. One thing. You can choose an ordinary action and meet it as if it will not come again. Because it will not. Not this version. Not this exact light or temperature or mood. You might drink your tea slowly, feeling the heat in your hands, tasting it fully, knowing that this cup is not rehearsal. You might walk and feel each step, the ground under you, the air on your skin, the specific quality of this afternoon that will not repeat. You might listen to someone without planning your response, hearing them as if this is the last time you will hear their voice say these particular words. Because it might be. This is not morbid. This is awake. The blossom does not bloom in fear. It blooms because blooming is what it does, and now is when it does it. You do not need to be afraid of impermanence. You only need to stop pretending it is not true. When you stop pretending, you stop postponing. You stop saving your attention for some better moment. You realize the moment is here. It is leaving. And it is enough. You cross a river and fill your pockets with stones to help you stay grounded in the current. The weight steadies you, the stones do their work. But then you reach the other side and you keep walking. The stones are still there, pulling at your hips, and you forget they were only ever meant for the crossing. We do this with our ideas about ourselves. We do this with our ideas about the people we know. Someone hurt us years ago, and we still see them through that single moment as if they are frozen in the act. We failed at something once, and we carry that failure forward like a name tag we cannot remove. The story was true then. It may not be true now. But we hold it anyway. The Buddha said not to cling to views. He said even the raft must be left behind. The raft is what carries you across the water. It is useful. It saves your life. But once you reach the shore, you do not strap it to your back and carry it into the forest. You let it go. You thank it, perhaps, and you walk on. This is not about rejecting what was true. It is about seeing that truth itself is not a fixed thing. It moves. It changes shape. The person you were 5 years ago needed certain beliefs to survive. The person you are now may not need them anymore. But if you are not paying attention, you will keep living as though nothing has shifted. Notice one belief about yourself or someone else that may no longer be true. Not to judge it, not to force it away, just to see it, to hold it up to the light and ask quietly, is this still accurate? Does this still fit? Maybe you believe you are not good with people. Maybe that was true when you were younger, when you did not know how to read a room or when to speak. But you have had 1,000 conversations since then. You have learned things without naming them as learning. And yet the belief remains like a stone in your pocket because no one ever told you to check. Or maybe you believe someone in your life is incapable of change. They were unreliable once. They let you down. And now, even when they show up on time, even when they follow through, you are still waiting for them to fail. You are seeing the old version. You are carrying the weight of who they were, and it keeps you from noticing who they might be becoming. This is not about pretending the past did not happen. The hurt was real. The failure was real. But if you hold onto the story as though it is happening right now, you create a kind of suffering that does not need to be there. You argue with a memory. You brace against a version of someone who no longer exists. The stones were useful in the river. They kept you from being swept away. But now you are on dry ground, and they are just heavy. Impermanence is not a problem to solve. It is the way things are. Everything that arises will change. Every feeling, every thought, every role you play. The you who woke up this morning is not identical to the you who will go to sleep tonight. Cells have shifted, perceptions have moved. Something has been gained, something has been lost, even if you cannot name it. When you cling to an old view, you are trying to stop that movement. You are saying, this is how it was, so this is how it must be. But the river does not stop. It keeps flowing. And if you insist on standing still, you will feel the current as resistance. There is a kind of beauty in letting the old stories fall away, not because they were wrong, but because they have done their work. You do not need to carry every true thing forever. You can set it down. You can say, that was real then, and now something else is real. This is not easy. The mind likes continuity. It likes to know who you are, who others are. It builds a map and wants the map to stay accurate. But the territory keeps changing. And if you trust the map more than what you can see right now, you will walk into walls that are no longer there. So the practice is small. Just notice. When you think of yourself, notice if you are seeing clearly or seeing a memory. When you think of someone else, notice if you are meeting them as they are or as they were. You do not have to change anything. You do not have to fix it. Just see it. The raft was necessary. The stones were necessary. But the shore is here now. And your hands are free. You stand at the sink with a bowl in your hands. The water runs warm. Your fingers move across the surface, feeling for any trace of what was there before. You are not trying to make the bowl look like it did yesterday. You are washing it until it is clean. This is the whole task. The bowl in your hands right now, the soap, the temperature of the water, not the bowl as you remember it, not the bowl as it should be. Just this one, here, being washed. We do this with almost everything else in reverse. We meet today's meal with yesterday's taste still in our mouth. We meet this person with last year's conversation still playing. We meet this moment wearing the clothes of the previous one. And so we miss it. We are here, but we are also elsewhere. The moment arrives clean, and we cover it immediately with what we already know. There is a teaching that says, when you meet the moment without memory, you meet it as it is, not as it was, not as you wish it to be, as it is. This is not about forgetting. Memory has its place. You remember where you live, how to speak, the name of someone you love. But memory often does more than orient. It overlays. It tells you what something means before you have even touched it. You sit down to eat rice. Before the first bite, you might already know how it will taste. You have eaten rice before, many times. The mind reaches back and brings forward an expectation. Warm, soft, plain. Maybe a little sticky. You take a bite, and the mind says, yes, rice, just as I thought. But is it? This rice, in this bowl, at this temperature, after this particular day? If you meet it without the overlay, something shifts. The texture becomes specific. The warmth is not generic warmth. The taste is not the taste of rice in general, but this rice here. When you wash a dish until it is clean, you are meeting it without asking it to be what it was before. You are not restoring it to some prior state. You are simply bringing it to this state. Clear, ready, present. The dish does not carry forward. It does not arrive at the table still holding last night's soup. It meets the next meal without that weight. We carry weight differently. We carry it in expectation, in assumption, in the quiet belief that we already know what this will be. The mind is efficient. It wants to save time. It says, I have seen this before. I know what happens next. And often it is right. But in being right, it stops looking. It stops tasting. It stops meeting. The practice is simple. Eat one meal today without thinking about the last time you ate this food. Not the whole day, not every meal forever. One meal. Sit down with something familiar. Bread, fruit, tea, something you have tasted enough times that the mind believes it knows. And then, before the first bite, pause. was. Let the memory settle. You are not trying to erase it, you are just not leading with it. Look at the food as though you are seeing it for the first time. Notice the color, the shape, the way light touches it. Bring it to your mouth slowly. Let the taste arrive without announcing itself first. Let the texture be new. This is not about pretending you have never eaten bread before. It is about meeting this bread without the ghost of the last one. The mind will try to compare. It will say, this is softer than last time, or less sweet, or too warm. That is fine. Notice that. But see if you can return again and again to just this bite, this temperature, this moment of chewing. Impermanence means that nothing stays. The bread you ate yesterday is gone. The bread in your hand right now is not the same. It never was. Even if it came from the same loaf, it has been sitting differently. The air has touched it. Time has moved through it. You're not the same either. Your body is different. Your hunger is specific to now. Everything has shifted, even if only slightly. When you meet the bread without memory, you are meeting what is actually here. Not the idea of bread, not bread in general. This bread, this moment. The dish becomes clean when you stop asking it to be yesterday's dish. The moment becomes clear when you stop asking it to be the last one. You are not trying to make something happen. You are letting something be seen. The freshness is already there. It has always been there. You are just meeting it without the veil. You wake up and the day feels ordinary. The same kitchen, the same light through the window, the same face in the mirror. And somewhere beneath your awareness, a quiet assumption takes root. This will all be here tomorrow. The people you love will still be reachable. The conversation you didn't have today can happen next week. The moment you just passed through will come around again, or something close enough. But it won't. Each day is born once and dies once. It arrives without precedent and leaves without return. This morning, the exact quality of light, the precise temperature of the air, the particular thoughts moving through you, none of it will ever configure itself in exactly this way again. You might see similar mornings, you might feel similar weather, but this one, the one you're living right now, burns only once, like a single match struck in the dark. You can watch it or you can look away, but you cannot light it again. This isn't meant to frighten you, it's meant to wake you up. We live as if there will always be another chance, another conversation with that person, another walk in that place. Another quiet evening where nothing special happens and everything feels secure. We scroll through hours as if they're infinite. We postpone attention as if presence can be delivered later, when we're ready, when we're less busy, when things settle down. But things do not settle down. They simply keep arriving and departing, and we stand in the current, believing we can step into the same river twice. You can't. The teaching here is not about panic. It's not about gripping each moment with desperate hands. It's about seeing clearly. When you understand that this day will never return, that this particular arrangement of conditions is already dissolving even as you move through it, something shifts, not toward fear, but toward tenderness, toward a kind of attention that doesn't take things for granted. Compassion begins here. Not in grand gestures, but in noticing what is actually present before it vanishes. The way someone's voice sounds when they're tired, the specific angle of afternoon sun across a table, the feeling of your own breath, ordinary and unrepeatable. When you see that all of this is temporary, that none of it was guaranteed, the heart softens. You stop waiting for a better version of now. You stop treating this moment as a rehearsal for a more important one. Before sleep tonight, you might try something simple. Name one thing that happened today that will never happen again in exactly that way. Not something dramatic, not something you wish had been different, just one small, true thing. The way the air felt when you stepped outside. A sentence someone said that landed in a particular way. the taste of your first sip of water this morning, the sound of a door closing behind you. This isn't about cataloguing your day or turning experience into a collection. It's about recognizing that what just passed through your life was singular. It came, it moved through you, and now it's gone. That match has burned. And in seeing this, you begin to understand what the early Buddhist teachers were pointing toward. Nothing stays. Not the pleasant moments, not the difficult ones, not the people, not the circumstances, not even the self you think you are. And this, strangely, is where beauty lives, because if everything stayed, nothing would shimmer with this particular light. If every moment were guaranteed to repeat, you wouldn't notice the texture of the one in front of you. It's the impermanence that makes things vivid. The fact that your life is not a rehearsal. The fact that each encounter, each breath, each ordinary morning is also a kind of ending. When you lie down tonight and name that one unrepeatable thing, you're not trying to hold on to it. You're acknowledging that it happened, that it was real, that it mattered precisely because it cannot come back. This isn't nostalgia. Its presence arriving a little late, but still arriving. And over time, this practice teaches you to notice preciousness while it's still here, not only after it's gone. The match is always burning. Right now, as you read this, something is happening that will never happen again. The exact quality of your attention, the way your body feels in this chair, the thought forming just beneath these words, all of it unrepeatable. All of it already leaving. You don't have to do anything about this. You don't have to fix it or transcend it. You just have to see it. And in seeing it, the heart opens. Not because you've achieved something, but because you've stopped pretending. You've stopped living as if there will always be another chance. You've let this moment be what it is, precious, temporary, and here. You sit by a river and watch the water move. It never stops. It never tries to stop. And yet the river is not restless. We have learned to believe that peace lives in stillness. That if we could only hold the moment, freeze it, keep it from slipping through our fingers, then we would finally rest. But the river does not rest by stopping. It rests by flowing without resistance. This is what the mind does not yet understand. We think the movement itself is the problem. Thoughts arrive and we tense. Feelings shift and we brace. The day changes, the body ages, the people we love become strangers in small ways, and we call this suffering. But it is not the change that disturbs us. It is the clinging to what has already gone. The teaching says, the mind that does not cling is at rest even in motion. Not resting after the motion stops, not waiting for stillness to arrive. Resting now, while everything moves. You can test this in your own experience. Sit with your eyes closed and notice thoughts moving without trying to stop them. Not as a failure, not as noise to be cleared, just as movement. A thought arrives about something you said yesterday. It passes. A sensation in your knee. It shifts. A sound from another room. It fades. You do not have to do anything with these. You do not have to solve them or finish them or make them go away. They are already going. They were always going. What we call distraction is often just the mind doing what it does, moving. And what we call concentration is not the stopping of that movement. It is the softening of our fight against it. The river flows steadily, never fighting its own current. It does not try to hold the water that was here a moment ago. It does not push away the water arriving now. It allows what comes, and it allows what goes, and in that allowing there is no friction. This is equanimity, not a blank face or a numb heart, not indifference, but a kind of inner steadiness that does not depend on the world standing still. You have felt this before, even if you did not name it. A long drive on an empty road, your hands loose on the wheel, your mind quiet but awake. Or walking in light rain, not hurrying to get out of it. The rain falls, you walk. Nothing needs to be different. These moments are not special. They are not rewards for good practice. They are what happens when clinging loosens, even for a breath. And clinging is subtle. It does not always look like grasping. Sometimes it looks like bracing, like holding your breath when a difficult feeling arrives, as if stillness will protect you. But the feeling is already moving. It is already changing. The holding does not stop it. It only makes you rigid while the current flows. Sit again, if you are willing. Eyes closed. Let the breath move without controlling it. Let thoughts come without following them into their stories. You are not trying to empty the mind. You are learning to let the mind be full without needing to hold on to what fills it. A memory surfaces. You do not push it away. You do not dive in. You let it move through, the way the river lets a leaf float past. A plan for tomorrow. The same. It arrives. It drifts, an itch on your face. You notice it. Maybe you scratch, maybe you don't. Either way, the sensation was already changing before you moved. This is not a trick. This is just what is happening. The mind moves. The body moves. The world moves. And you, watching without clinging, begin to notice that the movement itself is not the enemy. The river is always moving and still at peace. Not because it has achieved something, not because it has transcended its nature, but because it has never fought what it is. You do not need to become the river. You are already in motion, breath moving in and out, blood moving through veins, thoughts rising and dissolving. The question is not how to stop this. The question is whether you will let it be what it already is. Equanimity is not the absence of change. It is the absence of war with change. You sit, you notice, you let the current carry what it carries. And somewhere in that allowing, without announcement, there is rest. Not the rest that comes after everything stops. The rest that lives inside the flowing. You've seen the last light of day paint the sky in colors that will not return. Maybe it was orange fading into violet, or gold pressed thin against the edge of the world. You stood there and something in your chest opened. Not because the light would last, because it wouldn't. We carry a quiet belief that beauty would be greater if we could keep it. If the sunset stayed, if the flower didn't wilt, if the face we love never changed, we think impermanence is what diminishes things. That if only they could remain, they would finally be enough. But when you stood beneath that sky, what moved you wasn't the promise of return. It was the knowledge, felt more than thought, that this exact light would never happen again. The angle of the sun, the particular scatter of clouds, the temperature of the air, the quality of your own attention in that moment, all of it converging once and only once. The Zen teachers say the falling leaf is more beautiful because it falls only once, not in spite of its brevity, because of it. The leaf doesn't apologize for letting go. It doesn't cling to the branch, bargaining for one more season. It falls in its time, and the falling itself is the beauty. This isn't poetry trying to comfort us, it's direct observation. When you watch something slip away, when you feel the edge of its leaving, your attention sharpens. The mind stops its usual wandering. You are here fully because here is all there is. Think of the last time you held something you knew you were about to lose. Maybe a conversation with someone before a long goodbye. Maybe the last bite of a meal you'd been savoring. The knowing didn't ruin it. The knowing made you taste it. Impermanence isn't the flaw in the fabric, it's the fabric itself. Everything you've ever loved has been made of time, and time does not stop. The warmth of a hand, the smell of rain, the sound of a voice you won't hear again. These things reach you because they are not permanent. If they stayed, they would become wallpaper. The mind would glaze over them, looking for something new. But when you know something is leaving, you meet it. You meet it with the kind of attention we usually reserve for emergencies. Except this isn't panic, it's presence. You can feel this for yourself today without waiting for loss. You can notice one beautiful thing and let it go without photographing or capturing it, not as a rule, not as discipline, but as an experiment in meeting the world as it actually is. Maybe it's the way light falls through a window at a certain hour. Maybe it's the expression on someone's face when they don't know you're watching. Maybe it's the sound of wind moving through leaves or the taste of water when you're truly thirsty. You notice it. You let it be exactly as long as it is. And then you let it go. No phone, no mental note to remember it for later. Just the thing itself, arriving and leaving in its own time. This isn't about training yourself to let go of everything. It's about learning what the falling leaf already knows, that the beauty is in the arc, the movement, the unrepeatable shape of this moment touching you and then releasing. When you try to hold on to beauty, you stop experiencing it. Your hands close around the memory or the image or the idea of what it meant. But the thing itself has already moved. The sky has already changed. The leaf is already on the ground. What you're left holding is a thought about beauty. And thoughts don't glow. They don't warm you. They don't stop your breath the way the real thing does. The last light of day teaches this without speaking. It doesn't ask you to understand impermanence. It shows you. The colors deepen, then fade, then disappear. And you, standing there, are changed by the watching. Not because you've learned a lesson, because you've been touched by something that didn't wait for your permission to leave. This is why the falling leaf is more beautiful. Not because falling is sad, because falling is true. It's what leaves do. It's what light does. It's what every moment of your life does. And when you stop asking the world to be different than it is, when you stop demanding that beauty stay, something shifts. You start to see that impermanence isn't what makes things fragile. It's what makes them vivid. It's what makes them reach you at all. The sky will change colors again tomorrow. But not these colors, not this light. This one is already gone. We have spent this time together watching things appear and disappear. Thoughts rising like mist, sensations flickering at the edge of awareness. The breath arriving, filling, leaving, all of it temporary, all of it already gone by the time we name it. You might notice now that something has shifted, not because you have gained anything, but because you have stopped insisting that things remain fixed. The tightness around wanting life to pause, to hold still, to give you certainty, that tightness may have loosened just slightly. And in that loosening, there is space. Not the space of emptiness, but the space of room to breathe. Impermanence is not a teaching you master. It is not a concept you finally understand and then file away. It is the texture of this moment, the coolness of air against your skin, the faint hum of sound somewhere in the room, the way your thoughts are already different from what they were 10 breaths ago. You do not need to believe in impermanence, you only need to notice it. And in noticing, something softens. The grief you carry does not vanish, but it is no longer the only thing. The joy you felt last week is gone, yes, but that does not mean it was wasted. It moved through you, the way wind moves through trees. It left something, a memory, a warmth, a subtle knowing. But it did not stay. Nothing does. This is not sad. It is only true. And in the truth of it, there is a kind of rest. You stop trying to hold the river in your hands. You stop demanding that the people you love remain exactly as they are. You stop pretending you will not change. Instead, you let the river move. You let the people grow. You let yourself become someone you have not met yet. The beauty is not in the staying. The beauty is in the arriving and the leaving. The way morning light touches a wall for a few minutes and then moves on. The way a song you loved once no longer moves you, but another one does. The way your body, right now, is breathing without your instruction, without your effort, simply because it is alive, and aliveness is movement. Sit with that for a moment. Feel the rise and fall of your chest, the slight expansion, the gentle release. This breath is not the same as the one before. It will not return. And still another breath comes. Not because you earned it, not because you understood impermanence well enough, just because this is what happens. Life continues to offer itself, moment by moment, breath by breath. You do not need to do anything with this understanding. You do not need to become wiser or calmer or more accepting. You do not need to fix yourself. You only need to notice what is already here. The sensations in your hands, the weight of your body, the quiet hum of being alive in a world that is always moving, always changing, always arriving as something new. Let the concepts fall away now. Let the words about impermanence dissolve. What remains is just this: the feeling of your body breathing, the soft sound of air moving in and out, the stillness underneath the movement. Not the stillness of stopping, but the stillness of allowing, of not resisting, of being here without needing it to be different. Rest here. Let your attention settle into the body, into the breath, into the simplicity of this moment, which asks nothing of you except that you let it be what it is. Temporary, fleeting, unrepeatable, and because of that, tender, because of that, enough. If you would like to continue, there are other reflections waiting, but there is no hurry. You can simply stay here, breathing, resting, letting the silence hold you the way it has always held you, even when you did not notice. The breath rises, the breath falls, and that is all there is to do.